Hiya, I'm Estelle. I'm a second year Clinical Microbiology STP. I also help run STP Perspectives, which is a blog. I'm a STEM ambassador, and I'm just going to talk about my experience with applying. So I did my undergraduate degree about 10 years ago. Then I went traveling. Then I worked in a medical as a medical lab assistant. Then I did a master's. Then I worked in a COVID research lab, and then I did some antibiotic research. And then I started the STP. So the question I get asked a lot, sort of in STP perspectives, is it worth applying if I've just graduated from university? And my answer is yes. I have loads of colleagues in clinical microbiology who have come straight from university, so it's definitely an option. But I also have colleagues who have PhDs, masters, I have colleagues with really young children. There's a whole mixing pot. However, personally, I've always really enjoyed taking time out between each career step just to breathe a little, and the STP is a very, very full-on 3 years with no breaks. And I think taking time out from education has put me in a better headspace to take on the academic challenges of the MSc and the STP. So how did I go about writing my personal statement? So the National School of Healthcare Science has some really helpful YouTube videos. I watched a lot of YouTube videos from an account called Time for Tea, where clinical scientists talk about their day-to-day roles, and I also read a lot of the STP perspective blogs. I think it's really, really important to understand what your role will be when you finish the STP and how your current experience can complement what you're going to learn. So understanding what the NHS values are, the focus on patient care, teamwork, confidentiality, respect, and how your experiences that you've had so far reflect those qualities. So I've had quite a varied background with lots of work experience in different places. Like I used to work in a hospital in Turkey. I've done lots of lab assistant roles. I've been a team leader in a COVID lab. I've worked with consultants, government officials, lab assistants, biomedical scientists. And whilst you might not have extensive work experience due to career changes or being straight out of uni, the experience that you do have, like from university, from your personal life, from volunteering, from whatever work experience you have, will all contribute to these skills, your communication skills, how you work within a team, and why you've chosen this particular career path. So think about the sort of people that you've interacted with, and what sorts of challenges you've faced and what's led you to pick this career. How can we best prepare for the SJT, and are there any websites that I would recommend? So there's lots and lots of resources out there. Some are better than others. I personally found the practice questions that are available on the Pearson VUE website the most helpful. So this is the site that provides the actual test that you'll sit, and they explain the reasoning behind the answers on the practice questions, which is really, really helpful. I did pay for some practice tests on Job Test Prep, which is £49 for a month. It was when I took it, and the questions were helpful in themselves, but I didn't find the answers very helpful. I found them a little convoluted, and in hindsight, I don't really think that they align with the NHS values and answers. And it's expensive, so take that as you will. What I did find helpful is taking the practice questions from both Job Test Prep and Pearson VUE, and then discussing them with friends and family who are in the NHS or in similar organisations, and getting feedback on my thoughts and discuss my thoughts around them. I think it's really, really useful to, again, repeating myself, to familiarise yourself with the key NHS values, as the SJT is quite based around these. I found the test quite challenging, as not all the scenarios completely clear what the right answer is, but you just have to imagine yourself in a specific healthcare role and think what you would do. And I personally found the time limit the hardest part, but I've always had extra time, so you can get extra time, and reasonable adjustments can be made. How did I decide what specialism to apply for? So I've been quite lucky in the fact that I've wanted to be a microbiologist since I was a kid. I did my undergraduate and my master's degree in microbiology. And I'm not very good at doing the same thing every day, so I thought clinical science would be really good because it's really varied and there's always new challenges. So I think understanding the day-to-day of your role and your specific specialism is really important. There's lots of people on Twitter who talk about their roles as clinical scientists, and there's lots of YouTube videos like Time for Tea that can help you better understand these roles. in like a microbiology clinical scientist is very, very different to your everyday research microbiologist and biomedical scientist. So understanding these differences is really important. You might be able to find like people that you know or people on social media who might be willing to discuss their roles with you. So that's all of everything I wanted to say. So I'll hand over to Caroline.
Thank you very much, Estelle. We have some commonly asked questions to ask the panel. We will start with you, Estelle. So how did you choose the locations that you wanted to work at?
I chose the locations because I was willing to move anywhere really. And I chose the location based on where my support system was. So most of my family and friends are in London. But I knew that I would take the position regardless of where I was. So I just ranked them in terms of distance from London. And I think it's really important to consider that wherever you might be placed anywhere, like completely far away from your support system. And this might add to the pressure of the STP.
Any advice on how to make an application stand out? How did you prepare your supporting information?
I think it's very, very important to have a specific scientific passion that you can showcase and talk about to make you stand out. Something that's currently relevant is really useful. So mine was antimicrobial resistance and point of care testing, which is a big healthcare issue right now. And it's also really important to show your scientific passion as well as your passion for healthcare and the more sort of emotional side of the role. Being a clinical scientist is a very big responsibility and it's not a very common role. So talking about what makes you a confident leader, but also someone who works well within teams. In the NHS, you're not really ever working alone. So it's really important to be able to communicate ideas effectively and to be able to work with challenging patients or colleagues is a really important skill to have.
And finally, if you could give one piece of advice about applying for the STP, what would it be?
Make sure you want to do it. I think it's very much drilled into the STP that the STP is really hard, but I don't think anything can quite prepare you for how much work and learning there is to do. Have a really good look at the competencies online. I personally wish I'd done this earlier. I didn't, and then I sort of started my job and was like, competencies. And this can help prepare you for what you're getting yourself into and gauge your workload. So in microbiology, I had about 30 to 40 competencies in the first year. University once a week, which is a bit different to other specialties, exams and assignments every few months, and then on top of working within the lab and supporting your colleagues sort of in the lab. You might be moving to a new place, like I said, no support system for 3 years, and it's tough. So don't just do it because of the qualification at the end of it, do it because you're passionate about healthcare and it's something that you really, really want to commit to. And just as a final note, I'm currently writing all of this up in a blog for the STP Perspectives site. So we've got an Instagram, a Facebook, a Twitter and a LinkedIn, and it's all under STP Perspectives. And good luck in your applications and don't be disheartened if you don't get in the first time. I work with such a range of STP people with like different ages and experience, so it's never too late to apply again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Estelle. It's been fantastic to hear about